Producing a great and realistic sounding guitar and bass tone in the box is more possible than ever. And with tools such as AmpliTube and ToneX by IK Multimedia, the whole operation is taken to another level. In this video, you'll see me producing the tones for a production I'm working on at the moment using AmpliTube in combination with some ToneX captures that I created from my own amplifiers collection, which you can download for free. Link in the description down below. With that being said, let's get into it. Here it is, perfect. And we're going to be rocking a wet, dry, wet setup with this one. If you don't know what that is, let me explain. A wet, dry, wet setup is comprised of 3 amplifiers, and you can create one just by clicking on this button. As you can see, we got 3 copies of the same amp. And in this case, since we're going to be rocking my own profiles, I'm going to go for ToneX once again. We're going to look for Barden Lead 25. Perfect. Then I'm going to copy the sound to each of the different amps just by copying and pasting. There it is. That way, the 3 of my amplifiers will have the same effects or the same tone to them. From here, I'm going to be adding a little bit of boost. Why? Because this is a lead tone, so usually I like to have some form of extra push when it comes to a lead. So I'm gonna go for the traditional tip screamer over here. Well, sorry, over screamer or over screamer, and I'm gonna put it before the split happens. Why is that? This means that the 3 amplifiers will see the exact same signal, and it will be applied, or the same signal is gonna be affected the same way on the 3 different amplifiers. But here's the catch. Each of my amps will be rocking a completely different use or setup, because the center amplifier is gonna be the one that has the sound of my guitar without any form of modulation or time-based effect. While in contrast, the guys on the sides will be the one that have all sorts of modulation, reverb, and delay effects inserted on them. That's why it's a wet, dry, wet setup, because you got wet, which is gonna be the first amplifier. Let's say that is the one carrying the reverb. Then the dry, which is the center one, keeping the sound of my or the important elements of my mix or my guitar tone in mono, while the second amp is going to be the one carrying, for example, the delays and the modulations. So let's begin. First, I'm going to go to my mixer over here, and as you can see here right now we got access to 3 different cabinets. Okay, this is showing you, and as you can tell, is showing you the output or telling you which routing is controlling by clicking on each of the different buttons. Since we're going to be rocking or using the cabinets on the sides for special effects, I'm going to center them. Both of them. Cap 3 and cap, because cap 1 is the center. Perfect. And then I'm going to mute them. Cap 2 goes down. Cap 3 goes down. Perfect. This is leaving us with the lead tone or the center tone to be affected or controlled by the whole process. So first, I'm going to turn off the overdrive, and I'm going to see how the guitar is sounding going through the amplifier, the cabinet, and the whole setup as it is without any form of extra boosting. I like it already. I don't see the need of switching positions of the microphones or switching to a different cabinet. I think it's already going through will cut through the mix. And the benefit is that since we're rocking a completely different setup, it's gonna be very hard for it to be blend or to have issues with the other guitars that are part of the mix. So let's leave it there. But then it's time to add some boost, because it feels that it needs a little bit of extra push. So let's see, I'm going to remove the solo, and we're going to be adding this to taste. Perfect. The overdrive is adding the exact amount of extra that the guitar is needing. So with that being done, now I'm gonna be working on the sound of the different cabinets. So here we go. Let's work on the sides. In this case, I'm gonna be changing to a completely different cabinet. Let's go for something like, yeah, the Brit 9000, but only on the sides, because as you can tell, it's sticking to the same cabinets, just swapping to different cabinets depending on which amp we're working with. So on the other guy, I'm gonna do the same, and I'm gonna also stick to the room for those guys. Why? Since we're gonna be adding these extra sounds to the guitar tone, it's very important to have some form of differences. That will create a much more stereo-like and wider stereo perception of the sound. Okay. So now let's begin doing the wet, dry, wet stuff. I'm gonna go for once again to my AmpliTube, and then I'm gonna select the effects I'm gonna be applying. Since I wanna go fancy, I'm gonna be using the rack effects, and in this case, I'm gonna be doing on the first guy, I'm gonna be applying reverb. So let's go for something big. Let's go for the whole reverb, and I'm gonna be inserting it as an insert over here. But here's the trick: it has to be all the way to mix. The mix has to be all the way to 100, because that way we won't be having any form of mix between the dry sound and the affected sound, keeping everything tight and proper. See what happens. Not gonna mess around with it with the reverb as it is right now, because I wanna blend it in. So I'm gonna go for cabinet number 3, which is this guy. I'm gonna dock down the output of this guy, but removing the mute, and then I'm gonna be mixing or blending in the sound of this reverb effect. Here we go. You see that we are actually preserving quite a lot of the definition, the articulation, and still getting a very nice sounding reverb effect. Why? Is the benefits of using this wet, dry, wet setup. It's very similar for the trick or the technique that we usually do in mixing, which is creating a parallel mixing bus or a synth. Okay, so I think I can increase the decay of this guy, so we can make it even more insane by adding a little bit of pre-delay, just to let the guitar tone cut through. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker sounding, and a little bit of a high pass filter just to remove some of the potential buildup of low end. Here we go. Let's see how it sounds like. Coming back to the mixer again. Nice. Now let's add a little bit of delay pad to the second guitar. In this case, let's try something 80s. So let's go for a digital delay. And once again, we're gonna be doing it now in the second amplifier. I'm gonna turn the mix all the way to 100. And yeah, let's keep it there. Delay time, yeah. Yeah, let's see, with the triplet, and mixer again. We're gonna remove the cabinet number 2, yes, mute, but let's blend the guitar tone or the delay tone to taste. Here we go. Excellent. We got complete and total control over the articulation of the guitar. Every single one of the notes are going through correctly, and we added plenty of ambience. Again, the approach that I'm having with this is just to add this kind of sense of gluing the entire mix together and giving the sense of realism. And now that I think about it, all of these tones are also available for you to download on ToneNet as well, the AmpliTube combos. Now, let's do the final one, which is the guitar, the harmony guitar that plays together at the end with the lead one. So for this, it's going to be quite quick. We're going to be simply copying the one that we created for our lead tone, but let's add a little bit of modifications. In this case, I think I'm not going to be going for a wet-dry setup because I might go for a traditional straight to the point guitar tone. And I'm going to switch the positioning of my cabinets or the microphones of my cabinet. Let's see. Love it, but it feels a little bit dry. So let's add some reverb, but let's try something less crazy, a little bit more on the traditional side of things. Let's add a little bit of, how about a little bit of echo? So let's play with the echo man. So I'm gonna have a lot of delay, plenty of feedback, and let's say the blend, and let's see. Nothing beats an echo pedal. Fantastic. Totally not electro harmonics one. Memory Man. Yep, I like it a lot. And why did I choose this guy in particular? Because this kind of circuit has this beautiful modulation to it. And also, you saw that I went for a super fast delay and plenty of feedback because my plan is to create some form of quasi reverb effect with the modulation inbound. And it worked because the idea is just to add a little bit of extra kind of create the mix or the stuff in between the guitar, the lead guitar, and this harmonic guitar. So there you got it.